Hello again, it's Matthew from Matthew North Music, and today is the second part on making the Harley Benton Jazzmaster style guitar from a kit. Back in the shed then, and we have our Harley Benton guitar kit box. And this is what we're going to concentrate with today. And inside here we have our guitar body, and today I'm going to paint it. And as we see, it's a relatively smooth finish on here. It doesn't feel like it needs any sanding or anything. There are a couple of what look like little dents here, but you know, that's how these things are made. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt a piece of wood here to where the neck would go on. So, and then I can stick it in a clamp, and then I can spray paint it. Now, the paint I'm going to use recently arrived and is in this packet here. And this is our guitar paint, Nitrosil guitar paint. Now, there should be one in red and one clear. And yeah, this is our red one, this is our clear one. So I'll give it several coats of the red and then follow it with the clear. I've left a little bit of gap here just because I want paint to be around this part of the body so that when the neck's bolted in, it's red all around. Let's just give it a go. And I think I've already put too much on because it's starting to drip. So I'm going to go and get a cloth and I'm going to wipe that off, and then I'm going to start this again. So reasonably nice colour, but not the finish I want. So let's get all this off, because what we don't want to have is lines and bumps and things. As it stands, because this is the first coat, I've probably got away with it. Well, I've actually put 2 coats on already, and what's quite amazing is how dry this gets very quickly. Now, to touch, it does feel a little bit rough, and I'm not sure if I need to sand it or not, but I'll probably give it another couple more light coats and see how it is. I mean, it's possible I may need to use some fine grit paper, but you know, it kind of feels as it should do, really. Well, just after that sort of 3 coats that I've done, you can still see the grain in the wood, and the paint's really starting to take now to the guitar. And I think it looks really nice, actually, and I'm not sure how much more paint it's going to need. Maybe a couple more coats. But then after that, I think colour-wise, it's kind of how I like it. Well, as it turned out, I actually found it easier to spray this just holding this in the wood. And I've kind of done the edges now a bit more, and I've done some more of the body. And yeah, it's really starting to look like a guitar, nice coloured guitar now. So I think I'll let it dry now for a little bit longer. Well, some time has passed since the last bit of painting I did, and as you can see, I also happen to have cut the hedge. But the important thing is this. Now, I made a bit of a cock up with this, and I put too much paint on it, and it became all a bit lumpy bumpy, and it was pretty horrible. So I've sanded it down, and it's almost got this kind of relic look to it. And part of me thought, should I keep it like that, or should I actually just respray it? And I think I'm just going to go for the respray, because much as I like the relic look, I think it looks too obvious that it's been relicked. So I'm going to try and not cock up, adding a few more coats to the body. Well, that probably wasn't very exciting, but I'm not going to overdo it like I did last time by spraying it too thickly. So now I've done that, I'm going to leave it, and then I'm going to do some more coats over the next few days, and hopefully get rid of the bad bits, and it should look a little bit more uniform. but I just wanted to do a test just to make sure that when I use it I cut it about right. And if I look there, it's more or less straight. I mean, you see it's bumpy there, but then we can sand that down, and I actually sanded this side here down already, so yeah, I think it should be okay for cutting the real headstock. Okay, here we go. Now if you look at the headstock, you can see some cardboard wrapped around it, and if I tilt the camera you can see I just put the headstock wrapped in some cardboard and put it into the workmate. Hopefully that won't cause any marks or damage to the neck. I'm probably going to offend many luthiers who think I shouldn't be doing it like that, but I'm not a luthier, I'm a complete amateur. And we've got our markings there, and I'm going to cut on the outside of the marking with the idea that I can then refine it by sanding. Okay, here we go. I am not looking forward to doing this at all, and I'm just going to do it very, very slowly. Okay, well, I've cut that bit. I didn't quite go in far enough here, but that will all sand out, so that section will be okay. It will just need sanding. Now I've got to do the more difficult bit, which is cutting down here and then cutting around here. So I'm going to actually do this bit first. Okay, that's not too bad. No, that looks roughly right. Again, I think I may need to take a bit more off that side. But again, I can sand that, so that's not going to be a problem. So now I'm going to do this bit here. And I'm going to start slightly in. Only slightly, let's just straighten this a second. I'm going to go slightly in here. Right, that's not looking good at all. Let me just try and... I'm going to twist the blade now, just to get the angle right. Okay, that's gone slightly under the line, so I'm just going to cut down here. And then I'll restart, and then I'll sand it. Okay, now I'm going to restart higher up. Okay, well, I cut everything over the line more or less. And what I need to do now is I just need to smooth this all, so I'm just going to use some sanding blocks for that. Well, there we have it then. That's my headstock done. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it looks all right. Right now I'm in the kitchen, and I've had quite a good day today in that, as you saw earlier, I was able to cut the headstock. And now I'm going to try and do what is known as finishing the body. Now, I've been over the guitar with some slightly coarser sandpaper. I think it's 120 grit, which isn't the right stuff really. And I just wanted to get a few bumps out, because there was a few bumps here and there, which I've done. And I'm now using some wet and dry paper, and this is rated at 200 grit. And you stick it in some water, and it's got the sort of soap built into it, and you basically just got to keep rubbing. Now, I haven't been doing this very long, but already I'm starting to see that you're starting to get the sort of shine and the sort of smoothness that you want on a guitar, and it's actually very satisfying, because I kind of wasn't sure what the finished thing was going to be like. I thought it'd be, you know, how it was when I'd finished painting it, which, you know, to be honest, didn't look that great. However, doing it with this, it's I think it's starting to look all right, to be fair. And you you know, I think it's going to be a case of, you know, lots more elbow grease. I don't know how long this is supposed to take, but I'm guessing it's probably going to be a few hours. And so I've got some cassettes to listen to, the London Howling Wolf sessions and the Muddy Waters I Can't Be Satisfied, which obviously I can't play while I'm talking to you because of the old content match on the YouTube video. However, yeah, this is starting to, certainly with water on it, it looks lovely, but of course, you know, if anything's got water on it always looks best. So I'm going to give this a quick wipe, and you know, obviously after I've smoothed it, it's going to need polishing. I might just get the kitchen towel as well, just to get all the water off, and then we'll have a better idea of how it looks. And if I hold it up, you're definitely seeing some reflection in there now, to the point that it almost feels like you know, like a normal guitar, really. I mean, it's got a bit of a shimmer on it, and I'm guessing that the older, the buffering process will make it better. If I just give this a rub with this, obviously not too hard, but yeah, you can see some shine. I think I've just put a mark on that now with the cloth. Anyway, I'm going to carry on rubbing this all over. I mean, if you look at the back of it, you know, you can see, probably see here, it looks, you can see all the shimmers and things here. And I'm saying I need to rough sand this first because you can still feel a few bumps, especially around here. But then once I've done that, I will give it some more of this fine grit, and I think it will look, you know, a lot better than I thought it was going to be honest. Anyway, let's get back to it. Now, I don't know how well this shine shows up in this light, but actually no, I think it'll be okay. But you can see here, this bit has been sanded and it's sort of like a dull colour, and this side I've rubbed just with a towel, just to give it a little buff, just to see what it looks like, and it is starting to look quite shiny. So, you know, I never wanted this guitar to be an absolute mirror finish, but I think that if I just carry on buffing around here and doing the rest of the guitar, then I think that'll be a finish that I'll actually be pretty pleased with. And yeah, it's not perfect, but then nothing ever is, so I'm quite happy. Well, it's taken a while, and it's not perfect, but nothing ever is. But I do have now a shiny guitar body, and I think that's probably now ready for to have all the electrics put in and to have the neck bolted on, and then a setup, and then I'll be able to play a tune on it. But no, I'm really pleased. I didn't think, I mean, it just feels like a normal guitar body. I mean, yeah, I can see where some of the mistakes were with the paint and where I missed a bit or I put too much in, but it's all perfectly smooth, and it just looks a bit worn in. And to be honest, you know, guitars are meant to be played, so if it does look a bit worn in, then, you know, what's wrong with that? Well, I'm back in the kitchen, and here's our headstock for the guitar, and I'm still pretty pleased with it. I mean, it's not absolutely perfect, and this bit here isn't as round as it probably should be, but then I drew that freehand anyway. But I'm happy with it. You know, it looks roughly right, and I'm not going to change it now. But there's one thing I wanted to do with this guitar, and that was I wanted to put a decal on there. And the other day I went onto eBay and I bought one, and inside here it is. And if I take this out, should be a couple of pieces of paper, and the main decal should be here, and here it is. And I just thought, you know, having something that, you know, has my name on it, but then is in the right sort of style for this kind of guitar, I thought, you know, that looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. So the first thing I need to do is I need to open my kitchen drawers and grab a pair of scissors. And what I need to do is I need to cut it out. Now obviously everything here is kind of lined up, so let's just cut this thing out, and I'll just place it roughly in position and see how it looks. And yeah, I think that's going to be roughly in about the right sort of position. And you might even notice it says Matthew North Music, Bovey Tracy, Devon, my hometown. And if we go to the end there, where it would normally say original contour body, it actually says original Matt's guitar, which I thought was a bit of fun. Anyway, what we need to do now is we need to soak the decal and pop it in position. So I need to get a nice bowl of warm water. The noise in the background is actually my kettle boiling, but if you look at the photo that's on my phone and compare it to the layout here, they're roughly in the right sort of position. Okay, the first problem is read the instructions, and I've read the instructions, and one of the things it says is that it must be lacquered before we apply the decal. Well, there is lacquer on here, so I think we should be okay. That's definitely not bare wood there. I have lightly sanded it, but no, it does have lacquer on it, but it's good to check anyway. Well, they say the water should be lukewarm, which it is, between room and body temperature. Well, it's definitely not body temperature. And then we're going to pop the decal in. Now, it does tend to twist if you put it straight in, so you just need to make sure that it's flat. And we're going to leave that in there for a few minutes because it needs to separate from the backing that it's in, and then we can apply it to the guitar. But there's a special way to do that, so I'm going to finish making my cup of tea and then we will apply the decal. I'm just going to sprinkle some water onto the headstock, and another thing I'm going to need is some kitchen towel. So I've just grabbed a roll of kitchen towel. Though you probably can't see that one. So yeah, dab some water on here, and there's a good reason for that. Now I'm going to take our decal out of the pot, and already I've completely messed it up. Okay, the idea is that we slide it off like so, but the end has gone a bit funny. So I'm going to see if I can turn it over. This is what's known in the trade as making a total pig's ear. Oh well, we might not be lost. Again, put some more water on it, because if you've got plenty of water, it's going to slide around. Our decal's roughly in place. Now, this is where you have to be really careful. I now have my piece of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to check that everything's in the right place, which it pretty much is. Yeah, I think so. Nothing's twisted. And I'm just going to place the kitchen towel on top, and I'm just going to let it absorb the water that was on the headstock. I'm not putting any pressure, I'm just letting it, and I'm going to very gently peel it back. I'm then going to do it again. This time I'm just going to tap my fingers very, very lightly, just because I want to get rid of any excess water. And once again, I'm going to peel it back very gently. Now, I'm going to do this a third time. And again, I'm going to just dab it very, very gently, because there's quite a bit of water this side. And once again, slowly, because the last thing you want is to pull the tissue up and it brings your decal up with you. Now the decal, has got some creases. There we go. Now it's still, you can still slide it, so I'm just sliding it, and I'm then going to pop the towel on, and I'm just going to pat it ever so slightly. And I'm going to take it off, and then I'm going to look at it closely, and I don't know if you can see in the light, may be able to, but there's a few little air bubbles, and yeah, I've just nudged it slightly, although it's not made a massive difference. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop that back down, and I'm going to very gently just press this towel onto the decal. Okay, I think that's as good as we're going to get. So that's our decal in place. Now what we do is we leave this overnight to dry, and then we go to our old friend lacquer. Now I'm not going to do a filming of the lacquer process, but I can tell you what we do. I'll pull the camera back. So we'll cover the neck completely with masking tape and paper, because all I want exposed is basically from there onwards. We then spray the decal with lacquer. Now we have to have the lacquer very light, so that the can is going to be quite high up, and we spray it like this, and we give it a very, very light coat to begin with, and then I will leave that for an hour. I will then spray it with another light coat, leave it for an hour, another light coat, leave it for an hour. I'll probably do that maybe 4 times. Once I've done that, I'll get the wet and dry paper out and give it a very light sanding. We'll then repeat the process, 4 more coats, leave it overnight. Sorry, I forgot to mention, leave it overnight after I've done the 4 coats of lacquer. Do the sanding in the morning, then do the 4 coats of lacquer again with an hour in between. Sand it again, and I'll do that 3 times, maybe 4. I'm not sure, but certainly 3 times. And then that way, it should be nice and smooth, nice and solid. The decal's not going to come off, and the job will be finished. But as it looks, yeah, I think I may have scratched the decal slightly, but it just looks in the light. In some angles it looks fine, other angles I can see like a scratch. It could just be the plastic, I'm not too sure. Anyway, that's our decal on the guitar. Well, guess what? I messed it up completely. I looked at it closely and I realised it was creased and it was broken. So I've wiped it off and I'm going to get another one. Here's our little shiny guitar body now. And I've got to say, you know, I think it looks pretty good for what it is. You know, nice and shiny and reflective, more shiny than I thought it'd be. Now, I noticed something that could have been a problem, and that was when I slotted the neck in here, it didn't quite match in these spaces here. And actually in this corner, there's a little bit of some wood or something. So that when you go to slide the neck in, it doesn't quite line up. So I'm just going to use a chisel, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take out anything in the corners, because there's this tiny little bit of wood. In fact, I think I've almost got it out already. Okay, I think I've got that out now. Yes, it's smooth now in the corners. So that bit's done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put all the various bits and bobs in. So I've got our bag of bits and I've got our scratch plate. And if I take the scratch plate out, then, you know, that'll be in there at some point and it'll basically should all go together. Now, the one thing that I need to also do is I will take the controls off here just to remove this piece of plastic on the scratch plate. And also we've got this earth wire. Now that earth wire needs to thread through here, and that should appear in there, and it does, and that will attach to the pillars that hold in the bridge. But first thing I'll do is I shall pop the pillars in there, and I'll stick the strap buttons on. So everything should be in here that we need. Now there's our strings, don't need those yet. There's a load of screws. There's our back plate for the guitar. Pop that back in because I'm not going to use that yet either, and I don't need the machine heads yet either because we're not going to do that until after the neck's finished. These are the bits we're concerned with, what's in there, the pickups and our various screws. There's another washer there. I don't even know if that is part of the guitar, if it's something else. Anyhow, so we've got our strap buttons, and we need our screws for the strap buttons, which there's only going to be 2 now. These longer screws here I think are for our pickups because there's 4 of those. These 4 screws here are for our back plate, so we don't need those, so they can go in here. We've then got these really thin screws here. These are going to be the screws for the machine heads, so I'm going to take those out, so we don't need them. In fact, I'm going to put them in the bag with the machine heads so that they're all together. Because I don't want them getting lost. In fact, there's another one there, look. Then we've got these slightly larger screws here. And these screws are... Actually, move the camera around. Yeah. These screws here are the ones for the scratch plate. I don't know how many we need, so let's count the scratch plate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Or maybe this is 14, I didn't count. Anyway, let's put, and oh, I see what else we need. 2 of these are going to be for the string retainer that hold these things here, that hold the strings in place on the neck. Now, I think they might as well be the same as the machine head screws. So anyway, because that's all to do with the neck, I'm putting all that away as well. And yeah, I think those are all the same. They certainly look the same. And we've got 4 springs there for the pickup as well. So it's these screws here. They are the screws that we will need for the strap. And let's go and grab a cross-headed screwdriver. Just pop that through there. Pop on our little felt pad. And we have one on this end here. Let's pop that in. And then we do the same at the back. One of the reasons I'm actually using my sofa to do this rather than out in the shed is A, it's very, very hot today, and B, you know, it's nice to do something where you're on a soft surface, so you know, if something falls, it's not going to get damaged or scratched or anything. And I've made enough mistakes on this guitar already. Okay, strap buttons are in. Now we'll look here. In this pack, we should have our bridge. There's our bridge with its pillars, and so we've got to attach the earth wire to one of those. And here we've got our pillars for our string retainer. So these are going to go in here. Now I would guess these should just push in, but I may need to tap them in. Yeah, I think we'll need to tap them in, and I might just get a piece of wood just to do that, because that way it's not gonna get damaged. Before I knock them in though, I just want to make sure that this is all in the right position. Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to keep those on there just because it gives me a less chance of damaging the paintwork. I'll just use this piece of wood like a hammer. That's in place now, and we'll just pop that in to make sure it fits. There's one of our pickups. I don't know if that's got B written on it, which I'm guessing is for the bridge, and I'm guessing this will have N written on it for neck, and yeah, neck. And these will fit. There's two. I'm going to take this piece of plastic off, and we've got 2 screw holes there, and this will be for our 2 screws here. Now I don't know if we have to remove the covers first for these. No, they don't come off. But these screws are rather snug. But anyway, I don't think this body's been drilled for these, which is something that's I find a little bit odd. But because there's no thread the other side, there you go, that just pops in. And then what we do is we pop the spring on the bottom, and then we mount it into the body. Not the most elegant way of fitting pickups, has to be said. But, you know, these are cheap guitars, cheap pickups. And thus, let's pop the scratch plate in, and I'm going to put a couple of screws in, I think, just because I want it to be in position. And when you do these, you've got to make sure that your screw is going directly down. You don't want it to go in at an angle, even though the holes are pre-drilled, because then it'll put the rest of the scratch plate out of skew. Now the reason it's on the springs is because, of course, you want to adjust the height of the pickup. So these screws are almost working like sort of self-tapping screws, really. Now, of course, one other thing when you're putting these together is you want the pickups to be in phase, and what that means is where the wire is, whether you have it at the top or at the bottom, you want them both to be in the same position. So I think I got this, I had the wire at the top on the bottom one. In fact, I'm going to double check that now. Now, these are actually at the bottom on there, so I'll have the other one on the bottom as well. Glad I checked that. There's our pickups in position. And I've got to say, I think the pickups is probably the most disappointing aspect of this kit, because of the fact that they're, you know, it's very cheap how they're fitted into place. Anyhow, I'm going to now remove this scratch plate. I'm going to remove the plastic off the scratch plate, and then I'm going to hook everything else up. And now we've just got the pillars to hold the bridge in place. So I'm going to put this one in place first, and I'm going to use this piece of wood again just to knock it into place. I'm just going to be very gentle doing this. That's in now, and yeah, the Tune-o-matic fits on fine. Obviously a little bit loose, but obviously once it's under tension, it's not going to move so much. Now this earth wire, I'm going to pull some of this off. That should make good contact. Let that come down the bottom a bit. In fact, actually I might need to make that even longer. Actually it should go down the side. We'll see. Will that fit in the gap? No, it won't. It needs to be longer. I think the correct way to deal with this isn't to wrap it around at all. It's just to have it basically just wedged in. Yeah, I think that's how they want it done. You just wedge it in with the. I mean, it's not a great idea, but I think that's how it's done. So if I hit that, yeah, that goes down with it. Yeah, I think that hole was slightly bigger. Anyway, this is the moment of truth. Will the Tune-o-matic bridge fit on? And it does. Okay, so that is the guitar in essence wired. Now, turn the volume controls up full so that 10 is going to be roughly at the top like that. And then we'll do the same with our volume control. And that's it. That's the, I'll give it a dust, but that's our guitar all wired. And all I need to do now is pop the neck on, which I will do after I've reattached the decal, and then we should be good to go. Here we go then, and if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching this video. I actually edited everything up until this point last night, and it's already clocked in at about 35 minutes, so thank you for lasting this far. Now, the guitar has a very nice shiny headstock, and I'm really pleased with this. So if you can see the shine in the light, it is a bright sunny day today. I'll give that a couple of twists, but yeah, the headstock is now all done. It's nice and shiny. There's a little bit of water on there when I just gave it a quick clean. But yeah, the headstock now is all ready to have the machine heads and string retainers fitted, and then I shall bolt it to the body, and then we should be able to put some strings on it and check it all works. Now at this point I could actually remove the paper from the neck, but I'm just going to keep it on there purely just to keep any dust or muck off it while I do all the various other little bits and bobs. Okay, there's our machine heads, which is all we need for now. And I did mention much earlier in the video there were all these washers and I wasn't sure what they are. And anyway, it was obvious what they were. They're actually the washers for the machine head. So you have machine head, washer, and the sort of thread here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place all the machine heads in the guitar, and I'm just going to very loosely apply the nuts. I'm not going to tighten them up. They're just going to go in very loose. And the reason for this is, in a way, a bit like when I'm making the Cosmo synthesizers and other electronic products. If you put anything in loose first, then you can line everything up properly. And then once it's all lined up, then it's all in the right place. Anyway, let's hit the fast forward button. And there's our machine heads roughly in position. And the next thing is we need to put our retaining screws in to hold the machine heads in place. These are kind of like guide screws really. And then once they're in, then we can tighten them up the other side. And it's just a case of popping the screw in the hole and doing it up. Okay, there's our machine heads in place. They look roughly straight, which is good. And now on this side, we need to tighten these up. And I'm going to use my plastic socket set for this. However, I may decide to use a proper socket set, and I'll just give that an extra tighten, but I don't have the socket set in here, it's outside, so I shall pop into the shed with that. See which size these are. Is it this size? Yeah. The other thing, you don't want to over tighten these things, but see how we go on those. Like I say, those strings will take the bulk of the tension, and they seem pretty solid, so that's good. Now we have got, bizarrely, we've got 4 screws left, and one of these is definitely ever so slightly longer than the others, but I think this one's also slightly longer. Yeah, so I think these 2 are the string retainer screws, and so we have our string retainer screw. We pop it into our string retainer. We stick it into this spacer, and then this will, first one will go here. And then our second one on the screw, I think that's the thicker one. Oh, there's that one. It's quite hard to tell actually, these things. Pop that in there. Now, interestingly, one's higher than the other, and I think I might have got these the wrong way round, because I think actually the higher one goes at the front. I think the higher one goes at the front, the lower one goes at the back. Okay, there we go, that's all in place. I'm going to keep these 2 extra screws just in case. And what we have left is the back plate and 4 screws. So let's get the guitar body. As you can see, I have knocked the back of the guitar. That was an accident. Every time you get a new guitar, you normally prang it within the first few days of owning it. I think it's happened to nearly every guitar I've ever had, and it's no different with this one. Anyway, let's pop the screws in, and then we'll pop that in here. And then if we pop the neck in place, hopefully that should all line up. And it does. Good. Okay, you need a bit of a arm muscle for this. And in fact, I'm just going to put these half in, and then I'm going to get a larger screwdriver to finish off. And I'm kind of doing them all at the same sort of time, so that the neck comes to the body at the same time. And here is the finished guitar in all its glory. As you can probably tell, I have already plugged it in and given it a bash. I've done a setup on it, of which it all seemed to be pretty close. There wasn't much I had to do to the intonation, just a quick tweak, and it was actually very easy to access the screws on this Tune-O-Matic-like bridge. I really am super pleased on how the decals turned out on the headstock. And it came up nice and shiny after I did some wet and dry and then did some polishing. I didn't actually have any proper guitar polish, and I actually used Brasso, but it did the job. Now, the only thing that's non-original on this guitar are the strings, because the cheap strings that come with the kit are just rubbish. So I put on my trusty Ernie Ball 10s, and I'm going to now take this guitar to the Plymouth Blues Jam, and I'm going to play it tonight, and this is how it goes. This project has definitely been a labour of love, and while it might not be for everyone, I think anybody that plays the guitar at some point in their life will probably want to think about building their own. Now, this isn't really building a guitar because most of it all comes pre-cut. However, there's still quite a bit of work involved in doing it, and I think that if you're going to have a go at building a guitar, one of these Harley Benton kits is as good a start as any. Now, it did cost about £75 for the kit, plus a tenner postage, but I ended up spending almost that again on buying more cans of spray lacquer and also the decal, and having to buy another decal. So had I not made any mistakes, I would have probably spent about £50 on the paint and the decal. But anyway, it's still 150 quid, and I can say that I put it together myself, and I'm really happy with it.